if we're gonna talk about the design of the book itself, initially the collaboration of the project was between me and Fatris, the writer. So we are actually a very long time collaborators. So because Fatris, I know Fatris already write a lot for newspaper as well, and he wrote from some books and also some other publication as well. He has this kind of the style of writing is very Malay, Ma Malay folklore style. That's the kind of Fatris
Mm.
style of writing. So it's almost like you're narrating something to someone actually. So it's something that is very specific, and that is something that is very different to if you compare to quite a lot of Indonesian writer which come from Java. So it's a little bit different style, and magazine editors totally notice that, and they love Fatris because of that. So well, I think since I was in junior high school, I already very interested in the history about Banda Island itself, about how the Westerner come to this place that is no one really know, no one really sure where it is at the time. So it was the idea was very intriguing for me, but I never really think about that until much later when I become a documentary photographer, when I decide to my career to be as a photographer. Then after Fatris told me, oh yeah, Banda Island, yeah, I remember that, and then I start to read that again, and then I told him, oh, maybe I would like to go there as well, maybe toward the end of the year, and then at the end of 2014, I decided to give it a go, and then went to the island as well. So I stayed there for like almost a month because initially I was just about to stay for 10 days, but because the transportation to go there and to get out there is very limited. So uh,
Oh.
so I need to wait for a while as well. And in the end, I went back to the main island there, where I can catch a flight to Jakarta by a ship which used for carrying gasoline, because there were no transportation at the time. It was storm season as well. When I
Mm.
get back to Jakarta, I call Fatris again, and oh, let's meet. Maybe we can do something about Banda. And we weren't really sure at the time what 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 kind of story that we're gonna cover, because it's too complicated, too many things that we would like to tell. So we start to plan next trip as well. So oh, well, let's go together, maybe in a matter of months, and but then again, Patrice couldn't come because he was at work as well. So I decided to come back to return again to Banda, I think in April or May 2015. And at the time, we already start to think about, oh, okay, maybe let's make a list of some kind of interesting stories about Banda, and then we probably uh, try to cover the story. And then that's pretty much what we do. So we build a list and thing that we would like to tell, but at the time we still have no structure of the book, because we never really think that it will become a book at the time, because the aim for the project is just uh, to tell stories about Banda Island, and we would like to do that by multimedia website. You know, at the time, by
Mm.
2014 and 2015, I saw quite, because I started working for a lot of different magazine and newspapers at the time, and I realized many publications start to publish things online, but with a very beautiful layout. You know,
Mm.
it's more like a multimedia. So there will be some kind of videos as well, photo, and then text, and sometimes illustration as well. Oh, this is something that we can possibly uh, try to do to deliver the story for the audience. And it's, of course, it's considerably a lot cheaper than making a book. So multimedia website, and we published the first chapters, and the reception was really good actually, because we released the first chapter only in Indonesian at the time, and people are, oh wow, this is really something that is really good, and we're really happy. So we start to travel more to Banda, next trip, and then the next. And the more we went there, of course, the more that we realized, oh, we just know just a fraction of things about Banda as well. So we decided to take it more seriously. So I think toward the end of 2015, I think we have like let's say like some kind of rough list of chapter that we would like to cover at the time. So and then yeah, we finished the project in the end by early 2017. And of course, because at the time we're also trying to look for sponsors, but of course, yeah, I met some brands, and they told me like, do you have any other kind of photo, something that maybe show a bit more beautiful side of Banda? Okay, and then we decided, no, we're not gonna do this. Like, let's just like wait, and maybe once we get some more money or whatever. The idea of like a multimedia website, we did one chapter, but then of course, uh, me and Fatris are quite busy as well with something else, to get some money to continue the project. In the end, we didn't have time to update the website, and some friend already, oh, are you still doing the project? Yeah, we're still doing it. Oh, but you didn't publish any new materials. Yeah, maybe later. And then we start to, okay, maybe within the next 3 months. But we didn't do it because simply there has we had no time as well, and also we need a good editor for text as well, because to make sure the structure is good as well. So the process was getting more complicated. So at the time, we didn't do that. And then by 2017, that's came to us. Oh, maybe we could make a book. The process took like about a year, I think, or maybe a bit more than a year, until the design that like what you see now. So the process was more like we just think about how to deliver the story in, like not only in text, in photos, but also in the design of the book itself. And also when we are considering about a photo book, uh, in the end, we actually, I mean, like it's a book actually. It's not really a photo book, I think. You can call it a photo book, but what we are aiming for is actually just like a normal book, because I think the story itself, I think it's quite it will be interesting for a lot of different kind of people, and I think the story is really important for a lot of people to know about.
Just for starters, essentially, what we noticed is that uh, the structure and design of the book in itself is very much in the canon of what a photo book is usually considered to be in the West. And but with the way of image and text, you have also sort of like broken that idea that a photo book is so intensively heavy on specifically design or specifically imagery. So I just kind of wanted to ask you about that, about the form of the photo book, and also what it was like choosing your collaborators on this.
Oh, okay. So okay, I'm not sure where to start, but if we're gonna talk about the design of the book itself, I mean, like so we so initially the collaboration of the project was between me and Fatris, the writer. So we are actually a very long time collaborators. So I used to attend the university along with Fatris. So Fatris actually, he's a bit older than me, but he uh, entered the university a bit later than me, like 1 year later. So we become friends in the university, but of course at the time we have no idea that what we would be doing in the future, of course. Like, but uh, yeah, but then I think after I graduated, I started to become a photojournalist for a few years. I think by when I moved to Jakarta, like more than 10 years ago, and after I'm done with the journalist in local newspaper in my hometown in the name of Jakarta, and I worked for a while in a news magazine. Then I decided to become a freelance, and then by then I started to come in contact again with Fatris because Fatris, I know Fatris already write a lot for newspaper as well, and he wrote from some books and also some other publication as well. So we collaborated quite a lot on magazine feature, travel magazine feature. So we worked for a few years. So by 2014, I think early 2014, Fatris went to Banda Island actually with another friend who is a photographer. So it wasn't me. So he wrote for the same magazine actually, and he told me about his experience. And I was I think since I was in junior high school, I already very interested in the history about Banda Island itself, about how the Westerner come to this place that is no one really know, no one really sure where it is at the time. So it was the idea was very intriguing for me, but I never really think about that until much later when I become a documentary photographer, when I decide to my career to be as a photographer. Then after Fatris told me, oh yeah, Banda Island, yeah, I remember that, and then I start to read that again, and then I told him, oh, maybe I would like to go there as well, maybe toward the end of the year, and then my daughter was born, so I wait a little bit. So at the end of 2014, I decided to give it a go, and then went to the island as well. So the process took like about a year, I think, or maybe a bit more than a year, until then we have uh, like the design that like what you see now. So the process was more like yeah, about the design itself. We just think about how to to deliver the story in, like not only in text in photos, but also in the design of the book itself. And also when we are considering about a photo book, uh in the end we actually, I mean, like it's a book actually, it's not really a photo book. I think you can call it a photo book, but what we are aiming for is actually just like a normal book, because I think the story itself, I think it's quite it will be interesting for a lot of different kind of people, and I think the story is really important for a lot of people to know about. So I start to doubt a little bit about the form of conventional photo book. I don't think I didn't think it will work in this project. I think we would uh, waste a lot of information can be lost if we just decided to create just a normal photo book.
That's so interesting because like it's still very much, I mean, it won one of the most prestigious photo book awards at Paris Photo, and it, like we were talking about this with Zara, to be like, this book is like a Trojan horse where it's fitting into this, these types of, like, you can consume it as a photo book. It's very well designed. The images are, they're really strong, and even the, I mean, it's kind of competing with the text in the book in a way, like both of them are equally weighted. At the same time, it's like reclaiming the narrative of Banda Island from the perspective of people who live there, but also from you, who is Indonesian, who's gone to this place, and you're negotiating your own gaze as a journalist a photographer, whereas, Fatris, who's got this like oral kind of storytelling way in which he's working, and both of you are kind of looking at the colonial history of Banda Island, repackaging it into this beautiful photo book, sending it to like the Western world for photo book awards, and in a way kind of like contributing to breaking a little bit or destabilizing the existing stories and existing ways of buying photo books as well, right? Which is pretty awesome actually. But yeah, it's an
Yeah,
observation.
sending it to Aperture, actually, it was Jordan idea. Oh, wait, let's send it to Aperture. Are you sure? How much was it? I think that's gonna be expensive. I think, like to send a book from here to Paris, that's expensive. I don't know. Just it's you for yeah, it's for you to decide, because we weren't really sure it's gonna be shortlisted even. But then this Jordan, okay, we just sent one, okay, and then it was really surprising as well.
And there's something that I noticed within the imagery of the book is that there is a very painterly, quiet sort of quality within the imagery that also sometimes feels rather desolate. And I mean, it's also the story of a land that was essentially completely transformed because of its colonizers, and that sort of emptiness um, uh, and silence is exuded by the imagery. So I just kind of wanted to ask you, and in one of your interviews, you had also mentioned that Indonesia is largely steeped in oral histories. And that is one of the reasons why you all decided to make a book about these histories, because, it's largely oral. So did talking about the silence in the imageries and also talking about the oral histories, do you think that there is some sort of like um combination of the two? Is it the land that influenced your imagery? Did you influence the land? I mean, I just kind of wanted to know a little bit about your image making process and the traditions that are covered within the book.
Oh yeah, I mean, like in terms of imagery, I think the land of course contribute to my thinking a lot. I mean, like, because photography, of course, as a photographer, you actually respond to what's in front of you. So, and also of what we feel when we're seeing things actually. So I mean, like uh, initially it's not really something that like I decide from the start that the style gonna be like this, the style of imagery. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like I found like it's probably a more proper way to tell the story of the island itself, and it's also like in the process itself of making pictures at the time. For me, it's like that's the most natural way of presenting the place for me to look at as a picture, and also I think for the audience. I mean, like, I would like as a photographer, of course, you're actually offering your point of view for the audience, and that's the way I would like the people to see Banda itself. The intensity of the image is not like like it's not like a photojournalism. There's nothing really intense in the image, so it's more like just portrait, just place as it is. But I think uh, when I look at the image after I photograph and develop the film and then scan it, and I start to, okay, maybe this is something that we can continue to do. And then when Fatris start to write as well, I think the tone of the image, not tone in terms of color, but the way story flow in the image is quite in line with the way Fatris tell the story. So I think it was we think it's a perfect fit. So we decide uh, to keep that way until the end actually.
And you talk about the accounts of correct me if I pronounce his name wrong, but Ludovico di Varthema, where he calls the native inhabitants of Banda gullible and backwards, and he uses other derogatory terms
Yeah,
as if
yeah.
he was, speaking from like a place of superiority. So, as a storyteller and documenter of the island's history, what are some of the ethical concerns that you might have had while making the work, and also how do you kind of negotiate telling the story of colonization without falling into the tropes of the colonial gaze in photography, and how do you kind of bring in your own being an Indonesian photographer, kind of your idea, I mean your vision of storytelling into a space? Was that something that you thought about before visiting, or did it happen like a lot more naturally?
I think it happened during the process actually, but it wasn't happen initially when we start to do the project, and we came into some, most of our research material are coming from Western world actually. Even if you see,
Mm,
there are quite a lot of quotes and from the Western traveler who've been to Banda actually in the book actually, because it's very difficult to find ones from Indonesians actually. But then when we get the complete material of the original source, so we try to source from different things. We bought books, and we also get some. There are also a place where they sell PDF of historical books. So we get the journal of Ludovico from there. So we decided to read it, and then we found, there is something that is quite crazy in that material. So this is something, and it's connected to Banda. Of course, when Ludovico tried to to tell his impression of Bandanese as well, that's really
mm,
upsetting as well. He's actually he's the first guy actually who described the look of a nutmeg tree. That's interesting actually. But then we
mm,
found something even more interesting in how he described the Bandanese. So that's very
mm.
upsetting actually, when
Right.
when he wrote that the Bandanese are so stupid that they couldn't even get angry at people. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? Like, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, so during the process, we start to realize so many material are only coming from Western world, actually, Western writers, because of
Mm,
course, yeah, they do write a lot, and they publish a lot of books. But I mean, like, uh, partly also because of a lot of Indonesian uh, actually tell stories just by oral history. That's also the cause, because it's not written anywhere. But also at the time, after we realized that we come to the decision to give a lot of space for uh, for oral history as well. We also encounter a lot of this oral histories as well from the locals. At first, I still remember that I discussed this with with Fatris as well. Because when you encounter this kind of oral history, you have this question, because the question about accuracy, right? And then I start to read about more about the about oral history itself, using oral history as our source research materials, and of course it's totally valid actually to
yeah.
include that. So then we decide to put actually a lot of that in our work as well, because the book is not the only thing that we are proud of, the final product as a book. But I mean, the process itself, I think it taught us a lot of things actually. This is like a quite complex story to tell actually, because it has so
Mm,
many. I mean, like, uh, you have a lot of research material, and then this oral history that sometimes can
yeah.
be really conflicting with what's written in the book that you read. So
Yeah.
I mean, but that's actually really good. I mean, like, in the end, we are really happy with the process as well. And then, of course, when for one instant, like, when we went to this island where the descendant of the native Bandanese, which were expelled from the island in 1621, still live to this day and still speak the original Bandanese language, because we call this original because the people who live in Banda now is actually the descendant. Of course, they're Bandanese as well, but they're actually the descendant of the workers that brought by the Dutch to repopulate the island after they expelled the native population at the time. So we went to the island where the descendant of the natives still live to this day, and they still speak the language, and they actually have this kind of a way of telling their family histories or the history of their community through songs. And then we found out, like in the song, they quote a lot of truth to it. Many of this descendant of the population in this island, they never been in Banda Island themselves, but from the song you can they know that in one of the island, this island has no source of water, so people need to drink from rainwater, and it was in the song. It's in the song.
Interesting you say this. I mean, it makes me think of also, Mark Seeley talks a lot about, I mean, he compares photography with jazz a lot. And this is something I came across recently, where he's talking about jazz as improvisation, but also our interaction with photography can also follow that sense of improvisation and how we experience it. And he's looking at like the history of representation, particularly of Black bodies, and how they find a certain context in like colonial ways of typifying these images and putting them in certain ways of seeing and reading. But like when someone from the community would experience that image, there is that inherent violence that is experienced regardless of the context in which you're viewing it in. And yeah, like the fact that these oral histories, however far removed they are from the original accounts of Banda that you have access to now, like we can read the accounts of Ludovico. There are no actual accounts of Bandanese people talking about their own histories other than these songs. And even all these years later, you can feel the history from their perspectives, whether it's like truth or not. You can experience that, and that experience in itself is truth in some way. And I think what I love about this book is that you've taken that experience, you've, through your experience as somebody who's, Indonesian, who's looking at this from the other side and kind of trying to bring out that experience rather than making it like a document in a pure sense. The fact that it even exists in the photo book or art world means that it's more experiential than it is, a piece of journalistic research in some way is quite something. But yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, like when you look at the final product as a book as well, or maybe or as a project, we also totally realize that at all time, I talk about this with Fatris quite a lot, because none of us between me and Fatris are real historians actually. And that's also when you see the decision of the title of the book itself. It's at the same time it's a journal. It's more from Fatris' perspective as well. The way we write it, because I mean, like we need to be a little bit more careful, because we are dealing with a lot of some of the material can be a little bit sensitive, especially like the oral history that we are trying to tell as well. For the community itself, it can be quite sensitive as well. So I mean, like, so we because Fatris is so much get used to write travel stories, so can always like to write things like that. So I think that's a more proper way. But at the same time, we totally willing to touch, of course, to ask difficult questions as well. But at the same time, we totally realize, historians, we have no academic background, and of course, we can ask a lot of people, but at the same time, because it's our work, but we still need to remember that as well. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, like, so even if when we went there, it's quite difficult, because of course we told them our intention, because we would like to tell the story about it. So some families, some of them start to, okay, this is a song that probably interesting for you. So we record some. Of course, some we were not allowed to record at all, but some we managed to record because it was allowed. So yeah, that's so there are a lot of like consideration, but yeah, in the end, I mean, like it's yeah, like what I told before. It's not really the book that we are proud of, but it changed the course of our way of working as well, and I think that's very valuable from this project.
And it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because that's something that while Kamna and I were going through the book, we realized also that in just the way that you and Fatris both kind of, there was a progression even within the book of your own understanding of the island, sort of starting off with talking about nutmeg, and then kind of pulling from nutmeg to then talking about the culture and the people and the descendants and the people who have migrated from there, talking about the weather, talking about the storms, talking about the ruins. And it almost felt like we were, as readers, unraveling your own understanding of these islands in a natural progression.
Yeah.
So was that I'm sure it must have been really hard to edit, or rather sequence, a book like this, which involves so many different aspects. So was that actually something that you all were thinking about while sequencing what came after what?
Yeah, we Patras has a lot of materials to write actually, and I do yeah, I have tons of photos as well from there. So I think we start to when we start to think about the structure of the book, and then after we finish everything, we end up with, I think, more materials than needed for a book. But of course, there are still things that we still feel like, oh, we probably left something out. Shall we go back to Banda? Oh, no. Let's end everything here. And then we start to
Yeah.
think like we start to build the structure, but of course it was still very rough at first. And then Fatris start to refine the writing, and then we reread all the materials. But in the end, I mean, like it totally uh, came naturally. I mean, like it's more like because the thing come back to one point, which is like how to make the reader can understand about what we are trying to tell. So that's we would like the book to be, I mean, like to reach different kind of audience, even like maybe like senior high school student. We would like to interest quite a lot of people. So I think that's also the main consideration of the structure and the way we you know we put details in the text itself. So in the end, at least even we couldn't really provide like a complete information about Banda, but at least maybe it's good to it can it can teach some people to read even more material after that. And also we when we even have a short movie as well for the last chapter. Actually, we have like a short movie. It's there are two versions. The first is like 5 minutes, and the second like 10 minutes version. It's a song actually. We are dealing with oral history, and the oral history is in the form of song. So I think it's quite logical. Photography won't be enough to tell that story. Text won't be enough. So let's do something else. Like, and we decided to make a short movie as well.
I
Yeah,
love
because
this thing of like the story is, it's the story that's important, not so much the book itself, not so much the website or the different ways of telling it. It's like, how do you tell the story and who is it for?
yeah,
And
yeah. That yeah. I a friend of mine who is a visual anthropologist wrote something like I think last year, which can summarize how to use photography in anthropology, and I think the way that can be said, like photography is not enough to tell a lot of things. So you, if you combine with different things, or I think it can deliver deliver the story way better. And of course, if you really care about the story that you're going to tell, sometimes photography is not the most effective way, and the text is not the most effective way. But if you combine, when they work together, I'm totally amazed. I mean, like what some friend tell, oh, this is your book. I mean, like it's really good. Yeah, I read the story, even if they don't tell anything about the photo, then they don't comment about the photography. Maybe that they don't like the picture. I don't care at all. But I mean that the thing that they can understand something from the book. I mean, like that's I'm really happy. I'm more than happy.
And you haven't over valorized the images in the book either. They're occupying the same amount of space or less maybe as the text in the book. And it's negotiating that space of the book. And it also comes back to thinking about the purpose of the photo book anyway, or the impact of a photo book. Like you talk about the fact that after a certain amount of sales, the photo book has become inflated, and suddenly it becomes like this precious collectible object, which is actually so counterintuitive to the story that you're trying to tell, because the story is actually a story that should be widely disseminated. It's in both Bahasa and English because it's serving different purposes in the two circles in which it's telling the story, right? On one hand, it's empowering, on the other hand, it's destabilizing. And I mean, what is the place of the photo book then in actually carrying important stories? Like, is it just to reach a certain, like, again, I keep coming back to this idea of the Trojan horse. Does it like sneak into certain circles and then like comes out and attacks, or I mean, does it really have the power of activism, or is it just staying within certain like niches of precious collectible objects? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the question that we have to ask ourselves, right? Especially like if we are practicing photography, if you're gonna tell just about, it's more like let's say like your personal journal, and it's totally fine. But I mean, if you're trying to tell something that is very important and to reach a wider audience, I think we always need something more, I think, than just pictures. We need to try everything that work, maybe sound, maybe video, illustration. So and also like yeah actually a lot of decision for the book Banda Journal. Also, me and Fatris and also Jordan in the end at so many valuable contribution, and also the decision to, because I was thinking like I mean, like, because I saw quite a lot of book where it's bilingual, but then as a reader you will get a lot of difficulties in reading them, because and then I asked to Jordan, oh, maybe we can read the book in English, because of course the audience, there will be quite a lot of people who can understand English. And then we put a kind of the translation of the text as a booklet. It's maybe at the end of the book, maybe to put it somewhere. And of course, Jordan didn't agree with that. No one will read something like that. And this book is just equally important for Indonesian and for the people out there. And then let me think of something. And then he came up with this idea of like, the coding with the with the font, different font. And then he showed it to me. Wow, this is beautiful. Okay, I think it worked. Okay, let's do it. So in the end, it wasn't just collaboration between me and Fatris, but actually it involved more people, Jordan, and also my friend who is a text editor. So it wasn't just basically our work contribution from the local people, because we visit the place repeatedly. So we met a lot of friends on the island itself, and of course it's because of them as well. So a friend in Banda bring us to some, you'd like to know about this, and then they will bring us some people who know about that. So I mean, like, so it's the work of more than just two of us. And the editor gave some direction as well. We need to put this kind of so people can understand, because you know that we're gonna do it in bilingual. So yeah, I recently chat with Jordan about yeah, maybe we can, because Jordan is very interested now to look for a local photographer who are interested to publish a book. Yeah, and then I chat with Jordan. Oh yeah, um, now even Jordan himself not really interested anymore if it's just photos. So yeah, it was a good process, I think. Yeah, we just did everything in Banda Journal a bit unconsciously, so little by little, but he totally realized that the importance of mixing yeah, different kind of medium to reach what you're trying to do, and to maximize
And
the
sometimes
impact
as
of.
a practitioner, you're like, you do, you kind of do it as a job, you do what you do in your capacity, but then, people who are looking at it and are able to like extrapolate the information and put it into a larger context, then find the larger narrative about it. I think that's the role of curators, critics, theoreticians, all of these people. We can't be everything at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
We just like everyone does their
Yeah.
job, kind of make sure that the stories that should be heard find their voices and get contextualized, and eventually make an impact in whatever way. And I think Banda Journal has made it into all of those spheres, and it is it is a very important story that needs to get out there. So very excited for the second edition.
Oh yeah, thank you, Kamla.